Let me ask you about an example of the thing you're talking about. Tell the saga of Telegram in the Romanian election. So amidst all this, you were still fighting to preserve the freedom of speech. What happened? And what were some of the decisions you had to make?
So when I got stuck in France, unable to leave the country for a few months, I was offered to meet the head of state foreign intelligence services through a person I know quite well. It's actually a well-known tech entrepreneur in France, and he's well connected. And he said, "This guy wants to meet you." I said, "Okay, fine. Let's do that, but I'm not promising anything." I took the meeting, and in this meeting, I was asked to restrict what I see as restriction of freedom of speech in Romania. I don't know if you followed the whole saga with the Romanian elections. They had a presidential elections last year. The results got cancelled. Now, Romania at that point, when I had this meeting, was preparing for a new presidential elections. The conservative candidate was not somebody who the French government was supportive of. So they asked me whether I would be shutting down or ready to shut down channels on Telegram that supported the conservative candidate or protest against the pro-European candidates, so they called the guy they liked. I said, look, if there is no violation of the rules of Telegram, which are quite clear, you can't call to violence. But if it's a peaceful demonstration, if it's a peaceful debate, we can't do this. It would be political censorship. We protected freedom of speech in many countries in the world, including in Asia, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East. We're not going to start engaging in censorship in Europe, no matter who is asking us. And I was very clear to the guy who was the head of French intelligence. I said, if you think that because I'm stuck here, you can tell me what to do, you're very wrong. I would rather do the opposite every time. And in a way, that's what I did. I had a small debate with him about the morality of this whole thing. And then at a certain point, just disclose the content of this entire conversation, because I never signed an NDA. I don't ever sign NDAs with any people like that. I want to be able to tell the world what's going on. And that's quite shocking to me, that you would have people in the French government trying to get advantage of this situation. Of course, if they had nothing to do with the start of this investigation itself, and use it to reach their political or geopolitical goals. I consider it an attempt to humiliate myself personally and millions of Telegram users collectively. And it's quite strange that the same agency asked us to do certain things in Moldova as well. So even before that, I think it was October last year or September, I was arrested in Paris in late August. And then again approached through an intermediary and asked, would you mind taking down some channels in Moldova because there is an election going on and we're afraid there's going to be some interference with these elections. Could you please connect with representatives of the government of Moldova and take care of it? We said, we're happy to take a look at it and see if there is content there that is in violation of our rules. And they sent us a list of channels and bots. Some of them were, so it was a very short list, and some of these channels and bots were in violation indeed of our rules, and we took them down, only a few of them. The rest were okay. Then they said thank you and sent us another list of dozens of channels, many channels. We looked at these channels, we realized that there is no solid foundation to justify banning them, and we refused to do that. But interestingly enough, the French intelligence services that were asking us to do this in Moldova let me know through their contact that after Telegram banned the few channels that were in violation of our rules in Moldova, they talked to my judge, the investigative judge in this investigation that has been started against me, and told the judge good things about me, which I found very confusing and in a way shocking, because these two matters have nothing in common. Why would anyone talk to an investigative judge that is trying to find out whether Telegram did a good enough job in removing illegal content in France? What does Moldova have to do with it? I got very suspicious at that moment. Remember, it happened after we blocked a few channels that violated our rules, but before we refused to block a long list of other channels that were completely fine, with just people expressing political views, which I may not agree with, but it's their right to express them. Not extreme views, not views that call to violence. That was extremely alarming. That was a moment when I told myself that there may be more going on here than I initially thought. Initially, I thought, yeah, some people are confused about how technology works. And here, after this case in Moldova, I get much more suspicious. So by the time the head of intelligence services met me to ask about Romania, to help them silencing conservative voices in Romania, I was already wary of what can be going on next.
Yeah, so clearly this was a systematic attempt to pressure you to censor political voices that the French government doesn't agree with. And we should say that you have fought for freedom of speech for left-wing groups and right-wing groups. It really doesn't matter. So it's not, you don't have a political affiliation, political ideology that you fight for. You're creating a platform that, as long as they don't call for violence, allows people from all walks of life, from all ideologies, to speak their mind. That's the whole point. And it happens to be conservative voices in the Romanian election that the French government wanted to censor, because currently the French government leans left. But if you flip everything around and the government would be right-wing, you'd be fighting for against censorship of left-wing voices. And you have in the past many times.
Exactly. Ironically, we received a request from the French police to take down a channel of far-left protesters on Telegram in France. We refused to do that. We looked at the channel, peaceful protesters. It doesn't matter for us whether we're defending the freedom of speech of people leaning right or leaning left. During COVID, we were protecting activists that were organizing the Black Lives Matter events. And the other side, the protesters against lockdowns. We protect everybody as long as they are not crossing the lines and not starting to call to violence or incite damage to public property. It's a fundamental right to assemble. It's interesting that people who haven't had this experience of living in countries that don't have freedoms don't always realize how dangerous it is to gradually compromise your values, your principles, your freedoms, your rights. Because they don't understand what's at stake.